Well, I guess it's time. Yeah, the bell rang. Good morning to you all, and welcome to the First Unitarian Church in New Bedford. This morning, our service will be conducted by our Social Justice Committee. I know they have been working hard to present us lots of important concepts and ideas about racism. I invite you to be part of this important journey we have undertaken as Unitarian Universalists this fall. That said, I turn my service over to Mary. There's some confusion as to who I'm going to turn it over to. I believe Isaiah is the next speaker. So take it away, Isaiah.
Isaiah is lighting the chalice for us this morning as a symbol of our, Isaiah is lighting the chalice for us this morning as a symbol of our anti-racist work and our anti-racist journey. The opening words were written by Eileen. I am a racist, not because I actively harm people of color and not because I'm a bad person. I'm a racist because I was brought up in a racist society, so ingrained that I didn't even notice it. Think of a goldfish swimming in a little bowl. That is all it knows. If it could understand and you told it about the lake, that would have no meaning to this little fish. I'm like that. We all are. We can't imagine or understand a world that is not built on racism. We take it for granted. It's the water we swim in. The opening hymn is number 389, Gathered Here.
Gathered here in the mystery of the hour, gathered here in one strong body, gathered here in the struggle and the power, Spirit draw near. Gathered here in the mystery of the hour, gathered here in one strong body, gathered here in the struggle and the power, Spirit draw near. Gathered here in the mystery of the hour, gathered here in one strong body, gathered here in the struggle and the power, spirits draw near.
This is the time during the service when we greet one another. Welcome, everyone. You will find the covenant in your order of service. If you would join me in reciting in unison our covenant. We come together as a religious community, upholding freedom of conscience, right relationship, and the inherent worth of all people. We value our diversity and pledge to care for one another in the spirit of compassion, to speak and listen to each other with respect, and to promote justice and kindness in the world. Next, we have a treat in store. Everett Hoagland is going to recite a poem for us.
Oh, well. Good morning. It's good to be back. Thank you. The mic was for Lilliputians. Can you hear me? Okay, good. It's nice to be able to use neons and not nuance, rather, and not just holler when you're reading the poem. So, for the purposes of this morning, I've combined little snatches from 3 different poems, and I call this Yesterday, Today, and Tomorrow. Wounded Knee, Black Tulsa, Oklahoma. Hiroshima, Nagasaki, My Lai. Ground Zero, USA, 9/11. The supermarket in Buffalo, Mother Bethel Church in Charleston, Ukraine, Israel, Hamas. We must salvage the shards of truth and light in our minds beyond sorely created jingoism wherever Ground Zero is. To come to see, know, act as if all air, water sources, lives are sacred, all of earth is homeland, holy land, and all of us blooded kin. Or how shall we survive ourselves? We must more evenly, highly resolve that for humanity to live more abundantly, there shall be no inhumanity in any nation's world or domestic policies. That again and again, we humans must try to be humane, or we will all go down in the unlit pit, the bottomless hole of hate at Ground Zero, into which so many different times and places have already fallen. It is nothing new. We need to see ourselves in all creation, and all creation in ourselves in one another. Let us make our ethics our politics, and our actions the afterlives of our covenant's words, and continue to maintain a church, help to make a city, region, nation, world, where, to paraphrase poet Robert Hayden, people are neither niggers, sand niggers, kikes, wops, hunkies, or faggots and dykes, but people accepted as differently the same, differently.
If you have a joy or concern, feel free to come up and share it, and I'll light the candles for you.
my friend Jody and I are asking everybody to send out good vibrations to have a good weekend next weekend. Now, this is a big ask because out of the last 20 weekends, there have only been 5 that didn't have rain. So her daughter is coming into town from down south and with the grandchildren, and we really need a nice weekend. So please.
I mentioned before, it turns out that they're not my nephews, they're my great-nephews. And they are now 1 month old, and I saw them on my phone, FaceTime, I think. And it made me think, they're twins. They're the same, but they're different.
Hello, I'm Jack. A joy. This past week, my brother had a granddaughter, grandson, I'm sorry. His daughter had a son. And this is not in this country. This is down in the Caribbean, where my brother Dan lives. And this is my second biracial niece, which makes the anti-racism work I'm involved in more powerful for me. I actually had to put down the book at one time when it told me I had done harm to people of color. I thought, really? My nieces? Congratulations to my brother and his son Ellen and my new grand-nephew, Jahir.
Hi, I'm Tony Ann. So there are times when I feel like having Izzy with me, I'm basically just gonna shout you out, Izzy. When I feel like there's so many things going around me and everything in my life feels so chaotic, and I'm like in panic mode trying to scramble to get things through, and I always appreciate when Izzy is this voice of reason that is able to ground me. There have been days where I am running around the place making half sentences and my mind is completely pulled in like 5 different directions. And on the converse, there are also days where I feel like I can't do anything at all and I like completely blow a fuse on my energy. And it's days like that where I feel like everything is all topsy-turvy and lost, that Izzy is always there, just one room over, to tell me that everything's gonna be okay and that life will go on and that I am still worthy, even though everything around me might be all crazy. So, especially this morning, but always, thank you, Izzy.
It's literally one room over. We have a small apartment. It's like actually one room.
And I have a joy, the joy of coming to church on Sunday, driving through the woods with the pine needles on the road and the beautiful colors just filling my heart and my soul with pleasure. And it's fall again. And I've made it another year into the fall and I can enjoy all this beauty. Don't forget to enjoy the beauty.
very new to the city. I spent most of the last 8 years incarcerated. I prefer not to talk about why I was incarcerated, but my concerns for the future is I'm currently homeless, and I do have my struggles. Yet at the same time, I have some good friends. I'm starting to make new friends, and I'm keeping strong in my faith and trusting that there are better days ahead and that I will do much better. Thank you.
If that's the last one, I have a candle of concern. The other day, when I went to take my lunch break at work, I wanted to get out of the factory, so I just walked down the street, and on a lamppost down the street, there was a big, big sticker. And the sticker, it basically was advertisement for like an authoritarian, like far-right group, I guess you would say. And so I saw this. I knew immediately what it was. I said, I can't believe there's people that would have the mind to try and recruit. It had like a little thing that you could scan on it, and it was like, oh, you can come join and talk to our group. And so I couldn't understand like how someone could have the mind to try and do something like that. I just didn't understand. But so I tore it down, and I put another sticker in its place that said "Read Tolstoy," and then I had a link where you could read Tolstoy for free online. So that was my candle of concern. Just that. So there's some wackos out there that think that they can, try and use force on others to try and control them, and that it's all a war of information. So you get rid of their information about how to go talk to them, and you put something up that's a little more socially productive, I would say. And a final 2 candles for every joy and concern and prayer that was left unsaid in people's minds.
Thank you very much, Randy. So for this next section, it says story of all ages in your pamphlets, but this isn't like the kind of stories where I take a book and read it out loud. This is actually a personal story about how I come to discover my own race in the context of the community I grew up in. Growing up as a Chinese individual in a predominantly white community, I was born in Ohio, raised in Pennsylvania, and there's not too many Asians in that whole part of the US. I found myself having to navigate the complexities of conformity. From a young age, I was aware of the social expectations and pressures to assimilate into that dominant culture. Since we're near Halloween, let me tell you about one costume I put together when I was 9. I was in the 4th grade, and I just started to wear glasses. I wear contacts now, but I started with glasses. I also happened to have gotten into Harry Potter at the time, and I said to myself, hey, we both wear glasses. We both have black hair. So I drew a little lightning bolt in my head, and I found a little stick in the woods to call a wand and thought I looked just like him. I showed my costume to my friend the next day, who replied, huh, I didn't know that Harry Potter was Asian. Not only did my costume not convince anybody, but it also started a decades-long state of vigilance over what I watched. 90% of movies, TV shows, and mainstream media I watched alongside my peers growing up featured white characters, main protagonists who were white, and they would eat, white people food and songs, and all on the occasion that that show or movie did have a person of color, they were usually either black or Hispanic, but almost never Asian, especially not as the show creator's first choice. As the years went on, I became increasingly aware of the stereotypes and assumptions that were placed upon me solely based on my ethnicity. People would often assume about my intelligence or personality, like I was good at math. While these stereotypes may seem harmless to some, they created a constant pressure to conform and to prove myself. I almost felt like I couldn't be wrong in a math question, or that I had to answer in class purely because people expected me to because of being Chinese. Conforming meant altering my behavior, my interests, and even my appearance. I'd downplay my cultural heritage, avoiding conversations about my family's traditions or the Chinese language. Nobody really understood me when I share my perspective on a situation through the lens of somebody who grew up in a Chinese family. I grew frustrated with the fact that I knew all the white figures of speech and all the white idioms. Jump on the bandwagon, cat's out of the bag. I'm on the fence on this, right? I was expected to know all of these phrases, but you could never expect the other way around. Nobody had to know what the Chinese idioms were that I grew up. All the Chengyu, for example, 乱七八糟. You're so messy, you can't keep track of your 7s and your 8s. 七鲁张马, you can't abandon your donkey in order to find a horse. Or 虎头蛇尾, head of a tiger, tail of a snake. All of these phrases I knew because I was taught to them growing up in my Chinese family. Yet no one was expected to know them, but I had to know 2 sets. I always had to memorize 2 sets, learn 2 sets of culture, yet there was no expectation for anybody to do it back. And it's tiring knowing that either I learn both sets or be isolated. Not wanting to be seen as the weird kid with that wacky, unfamiliar culture that's hard to understand, I decided to keep my mouth shut. However, as I grew older, I started to question why I felt the need to conform in the first place. I went to China a couple years ago, and it was my first time going there. Suddenly, I stepped out of that airport, and everybody was like me. They looked like me, they ate similar food to when I was a kid, and instead of being the one person who stands out in a crowd, all of a sudden I felt like I belonged. I was in the sea of other Asians who shared that history and that culture with me. And the first thing I thought was, oh my goodness, was this what my white friends felt like all the time? For the first time in my life, I actually felt like I didn't have to force myself to conform to a culture that wasn't in my home. This was already the home. Coming back to America after that trip, I looked differently at my identity as an Asian American. Back then, I saw it more as I had this white side, the American side, that conformed to the culture of my friends, tried not to say anything too weird or eat too weird food at the lunchroom or anything, just to fit in. And then there was that Asian side, which I tried to hide away. But then coming back, I realized there's a whole community out there who are just as legit, who are just as amazing, and people whom I feel like have those roots that I've been looking for my whole life. So now I see my identity as Asian American not as one superior and one that I have to hide, but rather as two sides that are both beautiful, both amazing, and support one another. So I have grown very proud to say that I'm Asian American and that I have this kind of unique culture to call my own. Thank you.
Well, needless to say, good morning. That's right, this is a happening church and we rock. So today's prayer meditation, which I've been thinking about and my committee has looked at me kind of cross-eyed about, is I want to talk about Bacon's Rebellion. And of course, hot flashes. Oh, jeez. Oh, my God. They're getting worse instead of, it's a conspiracy. All right. It was Nathaniel Bacon led an insurrection against the colonial governor of Virginia, William Berkeley, and he did this 1676 to 1677. The reason I'm bringing this up is because as a result of that rebellion, Virginia passed the slave codes of 1705. We said, well, why is this a meditation? Why, what is wrong with you? You've been drinking too much coffee? What is going on here? Well, what happened in this insurrection was that white working class people and black working class people were part of the revolutionaries against the colonial governor and against the planters, the people who were the money people, the 1%ers, all right? And there's a lot of pieces to the Bacon's Rebellion. Part of the problem with Bacon's Rebellion is why it started in the first place is because Bacon and some of his cronies wanted to drive all the indigenous people out of Virginia because they wanted their land. So it's kind of a strange irony. But connected to it was the fact that black folk and white folk were able to work together as a revolutionary group. They were eventually put down. The king sent over troops and a lot of other stuff. You can read it in Wikipedia. But the point is that that's early in the history of our country that black and white people saw each other's mutual interest, and they said, we're going to fight, we're going to be together, we're going to fight together. And during that time, by the way, black and white people were marrying each other and living together too. In the early parts of the history of this country, they were basically one people in a sense. The big problem, of course, was all the racism against the Native Americans, but that was basically led by the money people. So I thought that that was a very important example for us as Unitarian Universalists to think about. That this is an example of our early history where we were together, where we were not the separate, strange thing that exists today, that we were actually together. And that was quite a prayer. And I thought about that. And last night, I thought about something else. We're Unitarian Universalist. So what does that imply? I think our prayer for Palestine, Israel is, why don't one of you pick up the phone and call the other and say, let's talk. You got my attention. Let's talk. That's what grown-ups do, all right? You don't sit around and say, well, I'm going to get back at you and you'll get back at me and my God is bigger than your God and all that silly stuff. It's not silly because a lot of people are dying because of it, that and other things. But I realized at that time that our faith is a powerful faith. It's a strong faith. It encourages us to think about some simplistic things like picking up the phone and saying, let's talk. You got my attention. Let's work it out. No more killing. No more children dying. We don't need that. Okay? We can do better. Sometimes, this is my meditative counsel, sometimes what is the most obvious is the least imagined. So let us meditate and think about these things together.
Hello. About 5 years ago, I had an experience that illuminated for me the difference between being white and being a person of color in interactions with law enforcement. I was driving home from work, and I had my work buddy Wilson in the car with me, and we were stopped by the police. And I pulled over, and I immediately took my seatbelt off, and Wilson said, "Oh, you shouldn't take your seatbelt off." Oh, by the way, Wilson is a brown man of Dominican descent. His perspective was very different than mine. And then I reach for the glove compartment for the registration, and he stops me. He said, "Oh, don't do that yet. Don't wait till they tell you." Then the cop reaches the window, and the cop is a person of color. And the first thing he says to me was, "Were you wearing your seatbelt?" Well, yes, I was. I took it off when we pulled over. "You should leave it on." Then we go through the license and registration. "Do you know what you did?" "No, I don't." I said, well, you stayed in the right lane while I had someone pulled over. Apparently, we had just passed this cop pulling someone else over. And I didn't know that it was the protocol to move to the left lane, which makes sense, safer for the cop. But I really didn't know. So I told him I didn't know, and he said, "That's all right," and he let us off with a warning. Wilson said to the cop, I told him to keep his seatbelt on. And he reached for the glove compartment. I told him not to do that. And Wilson and the cop had a bit of a laugh at my expense. But it was illuminating. We pulled out after the stop was over, just a warning. And I said to Wilson, "Where did you get all that? Where did this procedure for dealing with the cops come from?" And he said, "Well, my father sat me down and told me that you have to always tell the cop exactly what you're doing before you reach for something. Keep your hands on the steering wheel at 2 and 10, which I did." After Wilson stopped me from reaching for the glove compartment, he said, "Put your hands on the steering wheel." And more out of the concern in his voice than anything else, I put my hands on the steering wheel. So we're driving away, and Wilson said, "Oh, yeah, my father taught me all of this so that I would stay safe in interactions with law enforcement." And I thought to myself, well, my father never had to tell me that. He never had to teach me how to stay alive in an interaction with law enforcement. And I never had to teach that to my son. So it woke me up. And it is my hope and my intention that someday no parent has to teach their child how to interact with law enforcement and stay alive. Thank you. And now, to sing the Tracy Chapman song, "America," is our choir director, Tony Ann Wong.
You were lost and got lucky, came up on the shore, found you were conquering America. You spoke of peace, but waged a war while you were conquering America. There was land to take and people to kill while you were conquering America. You served yourself and did God's will while you were conquering America. The ghost of Columbus haunts this world, 'cause you're conquering America. The meek won't survive or inherit the earth while you're conquering America. 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 From bodies to serve, submit and degrade, while you were conquering America. Made of soldiers and junkies, prisoners and slaves, while you were conquering America. 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 Your hands are at my throat, my back is against the wall, because you're conquering America. We're sick and tired, hungry and poor, 'cause you're still conquering America. You bomb the very ground that feeds your own babies. You're still conquering America. Your sons and your daughters may never sing your praises while you're conquering America. 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 America.
If the ushers could come forward, and we're going to do the center on the offering plate.
Can you hear me? Okay, good. I'm giving a sermon that Mary wrote. I'm giving on her behalf. I have been doing anti-racism work for about a year, and I still get offended and defensive when I am accused of being a racist. But I am a racist. I have been socialized into a racist system. This racist system is our inheritance. We didn't create the system, but the system impacts our lives and our relationships every day. The system is not our fault, but it is our responsibility to recognize it and work to change it. This is the work that the Social Justice Committee has been doing for more than a year, and we hope that you will accept our invitation to join us on this journey. We also have a shared heritage in our church. Our church has been doing good works in the community from its inception, from aiding the abolitionist movement to helping to establish the New Bedford Women's Center. We also have a history of segregation in our pews, sometimes deliberate, such as when the church established a North End church for others, quote unquote, to attend, to the uncomfortable and undesirable segregation in the pews today. We will start with the premise that white folks have a racist worldview. Let me be clear, I am talking about a system of oppression that was consciously instituted by powerful interests centuries ago to divide and conquer and promote colonialism and slavery. In a sermon next month, you will learn more about the beginnings of this system of oppression. We are conditioned to uphold and at the same time deny this racist system. White families don't discuss how their race impacts their daily choices and options. Think about Jack's story. People of color regularly have these conversations. It's imperative that they do, so that they can minimize harm to themselves and their loved ones. We will examine how the system teaches us that white is the norm, white is outside of race, we don't talk about race, segregation doesn't impact our lives. Many of us have an intellectual understanding of the impacts of the racism system on all of us. We have read James Baldwin and seen Eyes on the Prize. The work we are inviting you to join us in will move you to an emotional understanding, one centered in love. We have a lot to learn and unlearn. Let's do that in community. This is hard, uncomfortable work. We will make mistakes. We will cause harm. We will get angry and upset, but we will learn and move forward with better understanding. We will learn that the impact of our actions is more important than the intention. We will discover that we inflict harmful microaggressions on people of color. Know that we will be disrupting social norms. Tima Occam wrote, "Unequal power dynamics are at play in all group settings. And anti-racist work, in large part, is about recognizing and challenging unequal power dynamics related to race. We need to stand up now and start the conversations on the systems of oppression and speak out against race. Become an anti-racist. Join us in this journey, which will bring us further on our path to beloved community. Please check out the lending library in the parish house for books that we recommend on the topic. Join us after worship for mini workshops by the fireplace. Look forward to speakers who will be participating in worship services and workshops throughout the year. This is a journey of healing and personal growth for all of us individually and as a community. Maya Angelou said, "We all should know that diversity makes for a rich tapestry, and we must understand that all the threads in the tapestry are equal in value, no matter what their color. In diversity, there is beauty and there is strength." And will you join me in reading together the anti-racism principles that you got when you came in addition to your order of service? Eli. Oh, okay. Okay. Systemic racism and white supremacy are real and exist today. All people are individuals, but they are also members of socially constructed racial groups. Racist ideology is circulating throughout the culture, and we have all absorbed this ideology to different degrees and in different ways. No one is exempt from these social and institutional forces. All white people have been shaped by and participate in racism, regardless of intentions. Intentions are irrelevant. No one chose to be socialized into racism. Character is irrelevant. Racism must be continually identified and challenged. No one is ever done. The question is not if my life has been shaped by racism, but how. A follow-up question is, what do the forms of racism I enact look like? This work requires a commitment to an ongoing and lifelong process. Amen, and so may it be. I'm sorry? What?
So for our next song, I'll be doing a Redemption Song by Bob Marley. Oh, pirates, yes, they robbed by, sold I to the merchant ships. Wait, wait, I don't have that. Minutes after they took I from the bottomless pit, but my hand, it was made strong by the hand of the Almighty. We forward in this generation triumphantly. Won't you help to sing these songs of freedom? 'Cause all I ever had, redemption songs, redemption songs. Emancipate yourselves from mental slavery. None but ourselves can free our minds. Have no time for atomic energy, 'cause none of them can stop the time. How long shall they kill our prophets while we stand aside and look? Some say it's just a part of it. We've got to fulfill the book. Won't you help to sing these songs of freedom? 'Cause all I ever have, redemption songs, redemption songs. Emancipate yourself from mental slavery. None but ourselves can free our mind. We'll have no fear, atomic energy, 'cause none of them can stop the time. How long shall they kill our prophets while we stand aside and look? Yes, some say it's just a part of it. We've got to fulfill the book. Won't you help to sing these songs of freedom? 'Cause all I ever had, redemption songs. 'Cause all I ever had, redemption songs. Redemption songs. Redemption songs. Redemption songs.
Now, for the next hour and 34 minutes, my lecture on differential calculus and, all right. Oh, hello, can you hear me now? Okay. I was saying for the next hour and a half, my lecture on differential calculus will consist of, I am very happy today. I'm very happy because of you. I'm very happy because we are working together. I'm very happy because in the middle of all this gobbledygook that is happening in the world, we still believe. There was an opportunity a couple of weeks ago. Someone said to me, well, people come up to me and say, oh, you Unitarians, you believe in anything. And I listened to my colleague who said that to me, and I wasn't thinking well. I should have been thinking well that day. But I thought about it afterwards. And I wanted to say to my colleague, that isn't quite true. We Unitarian Universalists believe in one thing and one thing more than anything else. We believe in you. That's what makes us who we are. We have faith in you. You. We know that you will make it all happen. That love comes from within you. And when you assert it and express it and encourage others to enjoy it, this belief gets stronger and stronger. And we do amazing things. Like we pick up the phone and call the other guy and say, hey, let's talk. You got my attention. I believe in you. And I want to thank you all for who you are. I come to this church every Sunday. And I know I'm in a safe, wonderful place. Thank you. And thank each other. That's our service for today. There'll be a collection of $436 for each of you to give us on your way out the door. We have tremendous amount of food. We have enough food to feed all of New Bedford. All right, so go for it.